Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The sun was still low, throwing gold across the manicured lawns of Crescent Pines Country Golf Club as I parked my old Jeep beside a line of glossy black sedans. The air smelled of cut grass and wealth. I hadn't set foot here in 5 years. 5 long years of silent disapproval, measured sighs, and letters unsigned with love. I adjusted my baseball cap and glanced at my reflection in the window. Denim shorts, a plain white tank top, sneakers, simple, comfortable, real. I wasn't dressing for them anymore. My pulse quickened as I walked through the heavy oak doors. Inside, laughter drifted from the dining hall, mingled with the faint clink of champagne glasses. My mother spotted me first. Her smile froze. "Nancy, is that you? What on earth are you wearing?" Every head nearby turned. I felt heat rise to my cheeks as she whispered harshly, "You look like you're here to clean the tables, not dine at them." My father emerged from behind his newspaper, his eyes narrowing. "The dress code exists for a reason. You're embarrassing us." Oscar, my brother, leaned back in his chair with a cruel grin. "I knew you'd never fit in, Nancy. Guess I was right." I forced a smile, though my chest burned. "I came to have lunch. Isn't that what members do?" My father scoffed. "Not dressed like that. Leave before someone important sees you." The words hit harder than I wanted to admit. Memories of years spent begging for approval flashed through me. The birthdays they forgot, the calls they ignored when my first business opened. I swallowed the ache, refusing to let it show. "Fine," I said softly, though my voice trembled. "If my presence embarrasses you, perhaps I should talk to the owner." Oscar chuckled. "Good luck with that. People like you don't talk to owners." As I turned toward the lobby, blinking back tears, I caught my reflection again in the glass. Older, stronger, sharper. They still saw the naive girl who once needed them. But they were about to learn I was someone entirely different now. With one steady breath, I whispered under my breath, "You'll regret treating me like a stranger." And I walked deeper into the club, past the whispers, past the shame, toward a revelation they would never forget. I had barely made it past the marble foyer when my father's voice boomed behind me. "Stop right there, Nancy. Security. This woman is not a member. Remove her immediately." Every conversation in the lounge died. The polished laughter of the elite turned into whispers. 2 security guards, hesitant and visibly confused, stepped forward. I froze, not from fear, but from disbelief. My own father was ordering me out as if I were some intruder. "Dad," I said quietly, "I just wanted to have lunch." "Enough," he barked. "You don't belong here dressed like a vagabond." The guards exchanged awkward glances. I could see one of them recognizing me, the faint flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Then, before either man could move, a calm, commanding voice rose behind them. "That won't be necessary." Eleanor Grant, the club's operations director, emerged from the corridor, crisp gray suit, confident stride, eyes sharp as glass. She walked straight toward my father, stopping between us. "Mr. Rowland," she said evenly, "there's been a misunderstanding." My father puffed his chest. "No misunderstanding, Miss Grant. This woman is my daughter, and she's not permitted here until she learns respect." Eleanor's gaze softened briefly as she looked at me, then she turned back to him. "Sir, I cannot allow you to remove Ms. Rowland." "And why not?" he demanded. The silence that followed stretched like a held breath. Then Eleanor spoke with quiet precision. "Because Ms. Rowland is the owner of Crescent Pines." For a moment, no one moved. My mother's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the tile. Oscar's smirk vanished, replaced by pale confusion. Tears burned behind my eyes, not from sadness but release. After years of being dismissed, I finally stood before them not as their disappointment, but as their equal, no, as their superior. I adjusted my baseball cap and met their stunned faces. "Now," I said softly, "shall we continue lunch, or will you escort yourselves out?" Silence followed me as I left the dining hall, my family frozen in disbelief. For the first time, their power had no weight against mine. Still, the adrenaline trembled in my fingertips as I walked through the corridors, my corridors now. Every chandelier, every marble tile, every whispering portrait hanging on the walls was mine. 6 months ago, I had quietly purchased Crescent Pines under the name of my company, Rowland Hospitality Holdings. It had cost $11.5 million, a fraction of what I'd earned from the boutique hotels and coastal resorts I had built from the ground up. My family never knew. They never asked where I went when I stopped visiting or how I survived after they cut off my allowance at 22. They assumed I had failed. That assumption had been my greatest weapon. I still remembered the night I signed the ownership papers. I'd sat alone in my apartment, tears of disbelief streaming down my face. Years of humiliation of being called too emotional, too naive, too poor, they had led to this single powerful signature. Eleanor entered my office now, bringing me a folder. All the transfer records are ready, Ms. Rowland. Would you like me to update the member registry? I hesitated for a heartbeat, then nodded. Yes. Remove the Rowland family from the executive board list immediately. Eleanor smiled faintly. As you wish. When she left, I stood by the wide glass window overlooking the green. My father was still outside, pacing, disbelief written across his proud face. My mother sat rigid on a bench, holding Oscar's arm like a lifeline. A single tear slid down my cheek, not from pity, but from the ache of what could have been, a family who believed in me instead of breaking me. You taught me to earn everything, I whispered, and I did. Every inch of this place proves it. The sun dipped lower, painting the horizon gold, and I knew deep inside, this was only the beginning of their reckoning. The next morning, sunlight streamed into my office overlooking the 9th green. The calm view contrasted sharply with the storm brewing below. Through the window, I saw my father and Oscar at the entrance, arguing with the front desk staff. Their access cards no longer worked. Their disbelief was almost poetic. Moments later, Eleanor entered with a composed smile. The membership suspensions have been executed, Ms. Rowland. They're demanding to speak with you. I exhaled slowly, steadying my heartbeat. Let them in. The door opened and my parents stormed in as if they still owned the ground beneath their feet. My mother's voice cracked with fury. Nancy, this is madness. You can't do this to your family. I met her gaze calmly. I didn't. You did, when you decided I wasn't good enough to sit at your table. My father's face reddened. You're acting out of spite. Suspend us and you'll regret it. The board. The board? I interrupted softly. You're no longer on it. His voice faltered. He looked at Eleanor, who simply nodded. The silence that followed felt endless. Oscar stepped forward, eyes burning. So this is your revenge? To humiliate us in front of everyone? No, I said quietly, to hold you accountable. You humiliated me when you called me worthless. I just learned the rules you taught me. For a moment, my mother's expression softened. Tears shimmered in her eyes, and for the first time, I saw fear, not of me, but of losing control. Please, she whispered, we're still your family. My throat tightened, but I didn't waver. Family doesn't throw you out of its heart and expect to walk back in without knocking. As they turned to leave, my father paused, defeated. The door clicked shut, leaving only silence and the faint hum of victory, cold, fragile, and undeniably mine. A week later, the air at Crescent Pines felt different, still proud, but quieter, almost reverent. I arrived at noon, in the same denim shorts, white tank, and cap that once sparked their outrage. Every head turned again, but this time no one dared whisper. At the entrance stood my family, smaller somehow, humbled. My father stepped forward, an envelope trembling in his hands. Nancy, he said hoarsely, we were wrong. Please, accept our apologies. Inside were 3 handwritten letters, each one stained with pride and regret. I read the first lines, my mother's neat script shaking, and something inside me loosened. You taught me what respect costs, I said softly, and I hope you never forget the price. They nodded, eyes downcast, and I walked past them toward the dining hall. Sunlight spilled across the room as I took my seat at the head table. My place now, earned and undeniable. For the first time, the silence felt peaceful, not cold. I raised my glass, whispering to the reflection before me, not revenge, just justice. And with that, I smiled, finally free, finally whole.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.